My husband left me on our anniversary, after 26 years together and 3 children. So I played my last card. My name is Callie Hartman. On the morning of our 26th wedding anniversary, I found a note on the counter. No kiss goodbye. No explanation. Just a neatly folded slip of paper beside my coffee cup, written in Jude's sharp, steady handwriting. Callie, I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry. That was it. After 26 years together and 3 kids, Jude was gone. I sat there in our sunlit kitchen, where we'd laughed over pancakes, argued about college bills, and danced barefoot after wine, staring at those words until the letters blurred. Our 3 kids, Nico, 22, Lila, 19, and August, 14, were all out of the house for the day. That silence, once a luxury, was now unbearable. I wasn't angry, not yet. I wasn't even crying. What I felt was something far colder. Clarity. This wasn't just the end of a marriage, it was a shift. A reckoning. A return to the self I'd tucked away under decades of sacrifice. Jude thought he had the final move. But I had one card left to play, my wild card. And I was done folding. The day after Jude left, the silence took a different shape. I woke up to the same house, but nothing felt familiar. His side of the closet was empty, a gaping reminder of what was gone. I didn't call him, I didn't text. I let the quiet answer for me. Nico called later that afternoon. Mom, are you okay? Of course, I lied. He was too far away, finishing college in Boston, to see through it. Lila sent heart emojis. August, the only one still at home, knew something was off. He stared at me with big eyes, asking nothing but seeing everything. I cooked dinner out of habit, set the table for 4. Halfway through, I poured Jude's wine into my own glass and toasted the air. I went to sleep replaying 26 years like a reel in my head. Our wedding, the first house, the kids' births, late-night fights, early morning coffees. It wasn't all bad, it wasn't all good, but it was ours, and now it was mine alone. That night, I didn't cry. I stared at the ceiling until I remembered something I'd nearly forgotten. The woman I used to be. The one with dreams. Fire. Teeth. She was stirring again. I pulled the key from the back of my jewelry box. I hadn't used it in 15 years. The brass had dulled, but the weight in my palm was heavy with memory. The loft was mine before Jude. A small art studio tucked into a corner of Oak Haven, forgotten now beneath dust, canvas, and echoes. I'd let it go after Lila was born. A sacrifice, I told myself. One of many. I drove there in silence, no music, just breath. When I turned the key and opened the door, it hit me. The air smelled like turpentine and old wood. My easel still stood by the window. A painting half finished stared at me like a question. Where have you been? I stepped inside and didn't look back. My last card wasn't revenge. It wasn't anger. It was resurrection. Before I was a wife or a mother, I was an artist, a bold one. I painted portraits of strangers and stories that didn't need words. This time I would paint my own. I rolled up my sleeves, pulled the canvas off the wall, and whispered aloud to the empty room, "Let's begin." My hand shook as I uncapped the gesso and poured it over the canvas, covering the old work in thick, white promise. Every brushstroke was a burial, a way to silence the ghost of the girl I once was and make space for who I was becoming. The studio creaked under my feet, and the sun poured through the window in long, golden stripes. I moved like a woman reborn, tentative, curious, alive. That night, I found my old sketchbooks in a box labeled Callie before. Charcoal drawings of faceless women, bold color swatches, notes scribbled in the margins. Break the lines, break the rules. I laughed. When had I stopped breaking anything? I didn't tell the kids about the loft. Not yet. I needed it to be mine, a sacred place untouched by guilt or explanation. Jude had taken our marriage, but he hadn't taken me. Not anymore. I'd spent 26 years making everyone else whole. It was time to fill in the blank spaces I'd left behind. I wrote Jude a letter that night. Not to send, but to purge. It began simply, "You don't get to vanish without hearing what I have to say." I told him about the nights I sat beside him, feeling lonelier than I ever did alone. I reminded him of the promises we made when we were just 2 broke dreamers in our first apartment, making love on a mattress on the floor and eating ramen like royalty. I confessed that I'd been fading for years, and I didn't even notice until he was gone. But the letter wasn't about regret. It was my goodbye. I folded it neatly, placed it in an envelope, and locked it in the studio drawer beneath my brushes. Some words are just for burning. Lila came home unannounced that weekend. She walked in with her big curls bouncing, her suitcase thudding against the floor, and her eyes already wet. "Dad left," she said quietly, without a question. I nodded. She crawled into bed beside me like she used to at 7, and for the first time in days, I let myself cry. We held hands in the dark, no words needed. "He shouldn't have done this to you," she whispered. I smiled through the tears. "He didn't do it to me, sweetheart. He did it for me." Each morning I woke up before the sun. I kissed August on the forehead, packed his lunch, and drove to the loft with a coffee and a sketch pad. The ritual became sacred. Music low, windows cracked, hands stained with pigment and past lives. One morning, I painted a woman standing in a doorway, light pouring in behind her. She had no face yet, but she stood like she owned the storm. That's when the name came, The Exit. I decided to paint a series, portraits of women who chose themselves. It wasn't just art, it was healing, it was truth. Nico called during a thunderstorm. "Do you want me to come home, Mom?" "No," I said, "just live, that's what I want for you." He paused. "You sound different." I looked at the painting beside me, bold colors stretching across the canvas like fire. "I feel different." He didn't ask questions after that, just said good, about damn time. I didn't expect anyone to knock on the studio door, not in that part of town. When I opened it, a tall woman in her 60s stood there, dressed in flowing linen and a silver braid down her back. "I used to rent this space," she said, "back in the 80s. We talked for hours. Her name was Margot, a retired art teacher with the wildest laugh. "You're waking something up in here," she told me. "I can feel it." She wasn't wrong. August found my sketch pad one night. I walked into the kitchen to find him flipping through page after page. "These are really good, Mom?" I froze. "You're not mad?" He shook his head. "No. I think it's cool. You're like a secret superhero or something." My throat caught. "Do you want to come with me sometime?" I asked. He smiled. "Only if I get to paint too." It took me 3 weeks to sign my first painting. At the bottom of a canvas titled Unmade Bed, I didn't write Callie Hartman, the name I'd scribbled on PTA sheets and dinner reservations. I signed it CM Wren, my maiden initials and the name I used before marriage when I was painting in a dusty college studio with nothing but hunger and ambition. Signing that name was like inhaling after being underwater too long. I belonged again. To myself. Margot returned 2 days later, carrying a cinnamon bun and a folded flyer. "Local showcase," she said. "2 weeks, I told the coordinator about you." I blinked. "I'm not ready." "You're more than ready. Don't let fear make decisions on your behalf." I stared at the flyer. My heart pounded. Could I really do this? That night, I submitted The Exit and Unmade Bed with the name CM Wren. No one knew it was me, and that felt thrilling. I got the email during August's soccer game. "Congratulations, your submissions have been accepted for the Oak Haven Women's Artist Showcase." I stared at the screen, stunned. Jude had been gone a month, and I was being reborn. Not as his wife, not as their mom. As the woman who dared to remember what she wanted before she forgot. Lila helped me pick out the dress for the show. A deep emerald green wrap that clung in the right places and made me look like I belonged in a room full of artists and wine glasses. "Mom," she whispered as I checked my reflection, "you look like you." I teared up. I feel like me. The gallery buzzed with voices and soft jazz. I stood near my pieces, a glass of wine trembling slightly in my hand. No one recognized me as Callie Hartman. They saw CM Wren, the mysterious new artist with fire in her brushstrokes. A man in a tweed jacket studied The Exit for a long time. "This woman," he said to no one, "she's leaving something, or someone." I smiled. "She is." He turned to me. "Do you know the artist?" "I do," I said, and I walked away before he could ask anything more. It was a Tuesday when Jude showed up. I was in the backyard, trimming the lavender when I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. I turned. There he was, familiar yet smaller somehow. He walked toward me slowly, hands in his jacket pockets. "Callie?" I stood straighter. "Jude. I didn't think you'd be so..." "What, standing?" He looked down. "I made a mistake." I didn't flinch. "No, you made a decision." He looked like he didn't recognize me, and maybe he didn't. I wasn't the same woman he left behind. "You left on our anniversary," I said softly, "and I used that day to start over." He nodded, hollow. "Is it too late?" I didn't answer, but my silence was the answer. Nico came home for fall break, taller than I remembered, with new rings on his fingers and paint under his nails. Been painting? I asked, grinning. You inspired me, he said. Your work? It's something else, Mom. We went to the studio together. He saw The Exit, Unmade Bed, and a new one titled Daughter of the Fire. He studied it. That's you, isn't it? I nodded. Maybe it's all of us. At the second gallery showing, I met Micah. He was in his 40s, soft-spoken with kind eyes and an easy laugh, a photographer. He told me my use of negative space reminded him of silence between heartbeats. We spoke for an hour, then 2. I didn't give him my number. But I gave him my name. My real one. Callie, I said, not the one on the canvas. He smiled. Both names are beautiful. One night, alone in the studio, I started a new canvas, bigger than the rest. I painted a woman at a kitchen table, coffee going cold, a note in front of her. Behind her, sunlight. An open door. I called it Anniversary. It wasn't about grief, it was about choice, about what comes after the fall. I knew I'd never let Jude see it. Some art isn't for those who broke us. It's for the women we become, in spite of them. August started joining me more often at the studio. We'd play music, paint side by side. He painted dragons and skate parks. I painted wild-eyed women and full moons. Why do all your women look like they're about to say something important? He asked one afternoon. I smiled, because they are. One day he pointed to a piece titled Ember Hands. That one's you. Why? Because you're not burning anymore, he said. You're the fire now. Absolutely. Here's the final stretch of your story. A local arts magazine reached out. They wanted to do a feature on CM Ren for their fall issue. The interviewer, a young woman named Riley, asked me halfway through, "What made you return to art after all this time?" I paused. "My husband left me," I said plainly, "on our 26th wedding anniversary." Her eyes widened, and instead of falling apart, I continued, I finally picked myself up. I didn't need to say more. The painting spoke for me. Lila brought a blank canvas to the studio. "I want to try," she said. We painted together in silence, 2 women, 2 generations reclaiming space. Her strokes were chaotic at first, nervous. Then they steadied. "You know," she said, eyes fixed on the work, "I don't think I want what you and Dad had." I looked at her gently. "Good, want something better." We both smiled. Jude called again. I didn't pick up. He left a voicemail. "I miss what we had." I deleted it, because what we had was a life built on sacrifice and silence. And what I had now was freedom, joy, and a version of myself I never thought I'd see again. I didn't need to go backward. Some stories are better left closed. The final gallery night featured only women artists. The room buzzed with color, conversation, and electricity. The Exit hung front and center. Micah was there, standing beside me. He didn't try to own me, just admired from beside, not above. Margot raised her glass, to the women who remembered who they were. I laughed and clinked my glass. Everywhere I looked, I saw women reclaiming pieces of themselves, and I was one of them. People always assume the wild card is revenge, or drama, or breaking things on the way out, but my wild card was quiet. It was choosing to heal, to create, to love myself so loudly the silence had no place to settle. Jude left me on our anniversary thinking he'd ended the story. But that was only chapter 1. My last card? It was the beginning. And for the first time in 26 years, I'm not just surviving, I'm living.